the sun is just starting to climb up over the treetops. And it's gonna be a beautiful day, that's plain to see.
Welcome to Bill Dance Outdoors, America's most popular and longest running TV fishing show.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.
Hello everybody. You know, as a youngster growing up in the country, long before I even touched a rod and reel, the closest thing I had to a fishing pole was just that. A 10-foot cane pole my granddaddy cut out of a cane brake along the banks of Mulberry Creek, a stone throw from my grandparents' house in Lynchburg, Tennessee. The highlight of my week was when all three of us would pick a pretty day during the week and head up Mulberry Creek for an afternoon of fishing. And I can hear my grandmother telling my granddaddy when we got up there, "Granddaddy, you need to put a string on that youngin's pole." She called him Granddaddy just like I did. Well, that fishing line that went on that pole, we call that catgut. Well, catgut became monofilament. And then soon after monofilament came along, a new word came along, and that was braid. And then the word braid was called superline. Then, a few years later, a new line hit the market, and it was called fluorocarbon. And today, well, fishermen define these lines as a small cord you put on a fishing reel, or what you tie to a hook or lure to. What holds the bait while it's cast and while you bring it back to your rod tip. And finally, it's defined as the only connection between you and the fish. That's the most important thing. It's the only connection between you and the fish. And that's why it needs to be a good quality line, whether it be a mono, a braid, or a fluorocarbon. It needs to be a quality line. So with that said, how about it? Let's go get it wet. There it is. Ooh, look at this one. That's a big old bass right there. Hey, old buddy. Like that worm, didn't you? Blow, wind, blow. Come on around here. That's a pretty one. Look at that big fat baby. That's a pretty. All right, you ready to go home? There we go.
Today's show is brought to you by Zebco, teaching America to fish since 1949. Pure Marine Odor Eliminator eliminates foul fish odors from gear, compartments, and empty live wells. And Tracker Boats, fish the finest. Today's Conditions Log, brought to you by Wormville, USA, bringing you big fat red worms and night crawlers from the nation's largest worm farm for 30 years. Wormville, USA, fish love 'em.
heard you hit the boat. There we go. Look at that. See you. Today, fishermen are realizing that using one line for all fishing applications is a big no-no. Anglers are discovering many applications in which these lines are important to know the difference in choosing line. You've got to learn the characteristics of each line. Tell you what, let's discuss each one for just a moment. As a general rule, this line, tripolymer, is easier to handle, has good knot strength, and has super abrasion resistance, making this line a good all-around choice. Fluorocarbon line looks a lot like tripolymer, but it's a different material. You know, a lot of fishermen believe fluorocarbon is more sensitive than mono because there's less stretch, but that's not the case. Mono has 18 to 35% stretch, while most fluorocarbon has 28 to 38%. Stretch in braided lines is in the 2 to 7% range. The difference is that nylon has a stretch recovery or rubber band effect. Fluorocarbon may elongate, but differently. Actually, the density of the line is what makes it more sensitive. Look at here. One right there. Oh, buddy. He's full of himself. Hit it right off the front of the boat. All right, buddy. That little hook right there is a fine hook for a 7. See the diameter of that head? That little 3/0 Gamakatsu fits that hook head just perfect. The 2/0 would be a little bit too small. You got to match the size of the hook to the size of the worm you're using. Let's talk about braid for a minute. You know, when braid was first introduced, I absolutely hated it. Even when I was testing it, and I'd backlash it, when I'd backlash it, it would embed down into the spool and I'd have to dig it out. And, I mean, I just had a fit with it. And I mean, I really did. I despised it. But today, it's a different story. These braided lines have definitely got a place in fishing. A line that offers many, many advantages. And one of these would be strength to diameter ratio. 20-pound braid has a 6-pound mono diameter, where 30-pound has an 8-pound mono diameter, and 40-pound braid has a 12-pound mono diameter. Braid is much easier to control in cold water on either spinning or casting. And as I mentioned earlier, it has less stretch, somewhere between 3 and 7%, creating incredible sensitivity and much better hookups. Excellent in deep water and moving water, especially for better feel, for soft biters and better hookups. Tremendous durability for extended use, less need to retie or respool as often. Ideal for flipping, pitching, and fishing in heavy cover areas.
Today's show is brought to you by Zebco, teaching America to fish since 1949. Pure Marine Odor Eliminator eliminates foul fish odors from gear, compartments, and empty live wells. And Tracker Boats, fish the finest. Today's equipment log is brought to you by Gamakatsu, because the fish of a lifetime only comes once in a lifetime. Today's show is sponsored by Monster Marine Lithium. Lighter, stronger, longer. Bill Dance exclusive rods by Quantum. We have an action for you. And by Garmin. Fight your fish, not your fish finder.
There we go. Take it. That's a good fish right there. Oh boy. This is a big fish right here, I'm telling you. That's a horse. Look at him stripping line. Yeah, that's a big old bass right there. Ooh-wee. Oh, I mean, a big one. Boy, you can eat that up, didn't you? Look at that right there. Woo-wee! Look at the mouth on that. Wow. What a big old bass. All right, Buster. I'll turn you loose. Hello. Boy. That is a whopper there. Thank you. See you, sweetie. I'm gonna tell you what, that blue's real. I thought I was gonna burn the drag up in it. Talk about a good smooth drag system. Falls all the way down. Didn't, not one stop in it all the way. I'm gonna tell you something. That drag system on that blue's reel is smooth. Watch this. Smooth, not one jerk in it. Woo. Whew. Like that. Yep, before you asked, there are disadvantages to braid. And one would be it can cause hooks to tear out from the fish's mouth if you apply too much pressure during the fight or on the hook set. You can help eliminate this by softening the action of your rod. Example, if you're using a heavy action rod, switch to a medium heavy. If you're using a medium heavy, you may not want to do this, but switch to a medium action. By softening the action, you surely will improve your strike catch ratio. Another disadvantage with braid is when you backlash. It can be a nightmare to pick out. Here is a couple of tips that'll help you big time when you backlash. When you get a backlash like this with braid, first thing you do, you don't do anything except take your thumb or your finger, put it on the line, and then tighten your drag real good. Then take your thumb and put it on the spool. And then catch your reel and do this. Start reeling forward as fast as you can, like 5 or 6 turns real fast, and then stop. And what you're doing, you're reversing the loops. Then mash the spool, catch the line, and start pulling it out. And what you're doing, you're just reversing the loops out of a bad backlash. Now, you've got the backlash out, disengage your spool, and then start gradually pulling it out. You might have one loop, just pop it and just pull it right on out. Then loosen your drag setting back to about where you had it. Now another thing you can do, when your line is dry, take off about 50 or 60 feet and then take you a piece of friction tape and run it from this side of the spool over to this side of the spool and just lay it on there and then reel your line right back over it. And then when you do backlash or it tries to embed, it can't embed any deeper than that friction tape that you put across the spool.
The Bill Dance question and answer of the week is brought to you by Wormville, USA. We've been growing these big fat red worms and night crawlers for 30 years. Drop by your local retailer for some Wormville worms today.
Is there a set time for pre-spawn bass? Bass activity is determined by weather, which is unpredictable. Weather patterns control water temperatures, which determines bass activity. Sometimes spring is early, sometimes it's late. It can vary by regions of the country and even regions of a reservoir. But don't sweat the variables. See it as a challenge, not a frustration.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Cast King Tri-Polymer and Hammer Braid Fishing Lines, and by Garmin Force Trolling Motors. Fish with force. Closed captioning provided by PowerPole, the original shallow water anchor. Today's product tip is brought to you by Garmin and their GPS map series, Chart Plotter Sonar Combos, with their advanced sonar technology, like Panoptic's Live Scope all-seeing sonar. You'll spend less time finding your fish.
Millennium Shade Tree Umbrella Holder will hold your shade tree umbrella shaft precisely where you need it, whether you're fishing from your own pedestal seat or Millennium's double seat sidekick. Constructed of heavy-duty anodized aluminum, swivels 360 degrees for maximum protection and locks into place for quick telescopic adjustments. This device will hold the umbrella perfectly while you hold the fish, of course. Millennium Shade Tree Umbrella Holder. You're gonna love it.
Come be part of Bill Dance Digital. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. Follow us.
Oh, dropped it. Doggone it. Got it that time. Oh my goodness. Oh. Oh, you're a fat fish there. There he goes back under the boat again. Come on back out in front of the boat. Look at that one. You talk about a butterball. Look at that pretty bass. Goodness gracious, what a fish. Woo. See you, old fatty. Okay, now let's discuss the advantages of fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is much less visible than monofilament underwater. It sinks faster than mono or braid, a major plus in some applications. It's more durable than mono, which allows you to fish lighter weight line test around heavy covers. That's saying quite a bit, isn't it? Today's fishermen are realizing that using just one line is a big no-no. They're discovering many applications in which these new lines perform better than they ever imagined. For instance, like me, one company has taken mono and given it a major facelift. They call it Tri-Polymer, and let me tell you, it's quite impressive. Not only for bait casting, but for spinning as well. Now get this, it's not a mono or a fluorocarbon. It's the best of both. A brand new, higher standard than a mono line. Now what they've done, they've used a tri-extrusion process, creating one unique line. Now this tri-blend of 3 layers of advanced quality nylon polymers create low light refraction properties that fish, well, they find it mighty hard to see. These nylons deliver an extremely smooth surface unlike any other. And let me tell you, it casts further with very little friction through the rod guides. And a feature I really like, it exhibits abrasion resistance that exceeds traditional copolymer lines by up to 2 times and has a stretch factor that averages 12% below that than any copolymer monos, which allow for better knot strength and allows you to feel even the lightest bites. And I'm gonna tell you something, buddy, that's saying a lot. Try polymer. Oh, there's a big fish right there. Oh, you big, hard-headed, you are full of yourself. Woo-wee, what a strong fish. I got you. Look at that big fat thing. Woo-wee. That's a pretty one. Yes, you are. Oh, and strong. Where'd you get all that strength? Well, as you've heard, fishing lines today, let me tell you, have some great features for certain applications and for some specific techniques. And just remember, one line for all conditions is a thing of the past. So until next time, you catch one for me, okay? We'll see ya.
Thanks for watching Bill Dance Outdoors. Join us here again next week.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.